Hello peeps, it's V from the one-stop shop for all things movies, Movies Hunter, and I'm here to enlighten you all on the cinematic gem that is the 1980 flick, The Blue Lagoon. This film is a combination of drama, adventure, and romance, a true trifecta of awesomeness. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. The opening scene of the film begins with a family sailing towards the bustling city of San Francisco. The young cousins, Richard and Emmy, are filled with excitement and wonder as they embark on this journey with Richard's father. The children sneak into the quarters of Patty, the ship's cook, and stumble upon some pictures. But before they can fully understand the implications of their discovery, Patty catches and punishes them. Just as the children are recovering from their scolding, the ship is consumed by an explosive fire, forcing Patty to take the children to a lifeboat. In the chaos, the children are separated from Richard's father, who is forced to escape on another lifeboat. As they drift in the middle of the ocean with no food or water, the children and Patty are consumed by fear and despair. But as the sun rises the next morning, Emmy spots a beautiful island on the horizon. Patty, driven by survival instincts, sets foot on the island in search of food and water. They find a can filled with rum and a sense of hope starts to flicker in their hearts. But as they explore the island, Richard discovers a human skull with holes in it, and Patty, fearing for their safety, decides that they must leave the island and return to the shore. Patty then takes Richard and Emmy under his wing, teaching them the ways of survival, how to catch a fish with bare hands, how to build a sturdy shed to protect them from the elements, and how to navigate the terrain. But one night, as they sit around the campfire sipping on rum, Patty can shake off the eerie feeling that something is lurking on the other side of the island. Now the next morning, he sets out to investigate, leaving the children with a stern warning to never venture to that side of the island. But as the days pass and Patty fails to return, Richard and Emmy's curiosity gets the better of them. They set out to find Patty only to discover the terrifying truth that Patty is dead, and whatever killed him may still be lurking on the island. Emmy wants to leave, but Richard is determined to honor Patty's legacy and make the island their home. With grit and determination, the two set out to make the island their own. They gather food, build a new shed, and learn to navigate the island with ease. As the years pass, they grow into strong, capable adults, making a life for themselves on this wild and untamed island. As they navigate the rugged terrain of the island, Richard and Emmy are reminded of the young, innocent versions of themselves that first washed ashore years ago. But despite their physical maturity, their minds remain unassuming and naive. It's on a bright and early morning that Emmy discovers a mysterious trail of blood in the water. She calls out to Richard in a panic, but soon realizes that the blood is coming from her own body. Confused and scared, she tries to understand the strange changes happening within her. But when Richard tries to help, Emmy pushes him away, too embarrassed to share her secrets. This only serves to fuel Richard's frustration and anger, leading him to storm off in a fit of rage. As the days pass, the couple begins to hear strange drumming sounds coming from the island they had once fled. Though they are curious to investigate, fear still grips them both, preventing them from taking action. But when Emmy hears the drums again, she can no longer resist her curiosity. She sets out alone, determined to uncover the source of the sound. What she finds is a towering rock sculpture. Overcome with fear and confusion, she runs back to the shed and shares her discovery with Richard. Emmy is convinced that the sculpture is a god, but Richard dismisses her beliefs, warning her not to return to the island again. As the sun sets on the island, Emmy lies in bed peacefully, but a haunting dream of him drowning in the water plagues her mind. She wakes with a start and clutches onto him tightly, imploring him to promise that he will never leave her. With a tender kiss, Richard assures her that he will always be by her side. But as the night wears on, a strange restlessness overtakes him. Unable to resist the pull of his body, he reaches out to touch Emmy in her sleep. But she wakes, pushing him away, and confusion clouds his eyes. The next morning, Emmy tries to talk to him about what happened, but Richard is distant, lost in his own thoughts. He can feel a change happening within him, and it's as if his body is reacting on its own. As the days pass, a ship appears on the horizon, and Richard's restless spirit takes over. He runs to the shed to light the signal fire, desperate to leave. But Emmy, determined to make the island their home, chooses not to light the fire. Angry and hurt, Richard builds a makeshift raft and sets out to sea. But as fate would have it, the raft falls apart and he is forced to swim back to shore, embarrassed. Emmy mockingly reminds him that the island is their home now, and in a fit of rage, Richard lashes out, hurling cruel words and a coconut at her. Enraged, Emmy fights back, hurling her own coconut at him. Richard is now filled with anger and betrayal. Throwing open the door to his humble abode, he furiously tosses out all of Emmy's belongings, declaring that he built the house himself and she no longer has a place there. But Emmy is not one to stop. With a fierce determination in her heart, she takes shelter in a nearby cave carved into the rocky cliffs. Days pass as she struggles to survive, her thoughts constantly drifting back to Richard and the life they once shared. She finds solace in the small things, like the wildflower she picks to place at the base of a mysterious sculpture deep in the forest. Believing it to be a god, she prays for guidance and strength. But as she makes her way back, she steps on a venomous fish and suddenly finds herself racked with pain and sickness. Desperate for help, she turns to the only person she knows can save her, Richard. With a newfound sense of urgency, he carries her deep into the heart of the jungle, navigating treacherous paths and unknown dangers to reach the sculpture. As he lays her at the feet of the stone figure, he pleads for her recovery, pouring out his heart and soul in the process. To his amazement, Emmy begins to steer, her strength slowly returning. Overwhelmed with emotion, Richard confesses his love for her, and the two are finally able to understand and accept their feelings for one another. As the days and weeks pass, their bond grows stronger than ever before. They laugh, they dance, they explore the wild and untamed landscape together. Their love for one another is the only thing they need to survive. But one day, as they share a tender kiss, Emmy pulls away. A look of worry is on her face. As Richard reaches out, she tells him that she is not well. Richard could not help but voice the question, "Why? Do you not love me anymore?" Emmy's heart ached with sadness as she replied, "It hurts so much when we make love. I don't know what's happening to me." With concern etched on his face, Richard placed his hand on Emmy's belly and felt a flutter of movement. Months passed and Richard couldn't shake off the eerie drumming he heard from the nearby island. Curiosity getting the better of him, he set out to investigate. But what he found was beyond his wildest imagination. The indigenous people were performing a ritual in front of a mysterious sculpture and, to his horror, even sacrificing a human being to their god. As he ran back to the shore, the sound of Emmy's screams of pain pulled him back to reality. She was in labor. With no medical knowledge, they were on their own. But with Richard's help, Emmy gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, whom they named Patty. They looked at the newborn in wonder, unsure of what to do next. They had no milk, no diapers, and no idea how to care for a baby. As Emmy cradles the newborn in her arms, she begins to breastfeed the child, as if by instinct. Richard watches in awe as he realizes that Emmy has unknowingly bonded with the baby, becoming a mother in that moment. But as Richard shares stories of the island's indigenous people with her, he warns her never to venture to the other side of the island again. Despite this, the three of them continue to live a happy life together. But one day, as they play near the shore, they spot a ship on the horizon. It's actually Richard's father coming to search for his son. But instead of calling out for help, they choose to stay hidden, having made the island their home. Years pass, and Emmy expresses a desire to visit the old island one more time. So Richard sets off with her and Patty in a boat, leaving their new home for a nostalgic trip. As Richard goes to grab some bananas, Patty picks up a branch of red poisonous berries and puts it in the boat. As the sun sets on the endless ocean, Emmy anxiously waits for Richard's return. But as time passes, the boat begins to drift further and further away. Patty then carelessly tosses one of the paddles out of the boat. Emmy's heart races as she watches it disappear into the depths of the sea. Just as all hope seems lost, a desperate shout from Richard pierces through the silence. He has seen the boat drifting away and is swimming towards them with all his might. But before he can reach the safety of the boat, a menacing shark emerges from the depths, hot on his tail. Emmy's survival instincts kick in and she grabs the remaining paddle, hurling it with all her might at the shark. It's enough to distract the beast, giving Richard just enough time to clamber back into the boat. But their troubles are far from over. Without the paddle, they are at the mercy of the ocean's powerful currents. Days drift by, and as they drift further and further away, their supplies are slowly becoming less and less, and their hopes are slowly sinking. Just when it seems their situation can't get any worse, they wake up to find Patty munching on the poisonous berries. Emmy's heart breaks as she watches her baby fall ill from the toxic fruit. She fights to keep the little one awake, refusing to let go of hope for their survival. With heavy hearts and a sense of hopelessness, Richard and Emmy make the fateful decision to partake in the poisonous berries together, their love for each other guiding them towards a peaceful demise. As they lay in each other's arms, a glimmer of hope appears on the horizon. The silhouette of a ship comes into view, and it is the vessel belonging to Richard's father. With a sense of urgency, the ship approaches the shore, and Richard's father jumps off the boat, sprinting towards his son and Emmy. He looks at the motionless bodies of the two lovers. Are they dead? He chokes out. The captain of the ship shakes his head. No, sir, they are just asleep. It appears that the berries were not as deadly as they had feared, or perhaps the strength of their love was enough to keep them alive. And so this was the story of the Blue Lagoon. See you in the next hunt.